What is this? Everybody's here on time.
Hey, boys. How's it going?
And oh my goodness, Gooch, we got to talk about that picture and that haircut. But first, we got to do our intro here. So we're going to talk about what we're going to preview Chiefs and Eagles. We're going to talk about Ken Dorsey firing. Some of the Chiefs' biggest playoff rivals of recent years struggling and what that means and a few other things. But first, we're going to hit that intro.
Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs?
All right, Gooch Fabio, we need you to tell us the story behind this. Aaron, I don't think I've ever seen Gooch without a hat on.
Dog, you really want to know? I was in a Waffle House. I don't know what state I was in, but I was annoyed with the waitress, and so like she said something or did something behind the counter, and I turned to give her a look, and like my staff took that picture, like I guess trying to be funny, and I actually liked the picture, so like I had them send it to me. So there it is. It's easy for me to get annoyed with bad customer service. Like it's like because it's like your job. Like I don't care if you hate it. Like I hate my job, but you know what? Most customers wouldn't know it. You know what I'm saying? Like when they walk around, they're like, "Oh, hey, you were so nice," and they walk out, and I'm like, "Was I?" Because I felt like I was a real butthead right there. You know what I'm saying? They're like, "No, you're good." For somebody that says they hate their job, and I'm like, "I do." Really do.
Yeah, you can hate something and still be good at it, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, Gooch and I think all of us here, right, have worked in like the food hospitality, like business at some point in our lives, right? Aaron, you have, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I did for 11 years, off and on.
And I've worked at a few places, so yeah.
This is why I'm rushing to own, because as I get older, I don't deal with people well, and I think I'm gonna be that old person that's just gonna say whatever's on his mind and doesn't care who he makes mad. Like the original picture I was gonna put up was a T-shirt that one of my staff got me, in I want to say North Dakota, where it was like, people say I can't multitask, but I can piss you off and amuse myself at the same time. Like that's gonna be me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not that old person, Liz.
You did what, Liz?
Speaking of Liz, since you're here, I'm just gonna pretend that I didn't text Aaron, so it's not his fault. Hannah says that my hat size is 7 3/4, Liz. I feel like Shooter McGavin when he's talking about his jacket size. But yeah.
I think that's mine too.
Liz worked in food as well. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know if I'd count it.
You can just give me an 8. I got a big head. Hi, Hannah. I know you're not here
yet. He's so used to it. Yeah. Well, speaking of, so I took her out for her birthday, and we stayed at a really nice, kind of quaint, historic hotel, and we had dinner or breakfast the next morning. And I'm not going to talk a lot about it because like this place, I didn't even know about it, but like there was a lot of stuff going on. It's made national headlines and stuff. And like the place we had breakfast at, which is absolutely horrible. The hotel used to own it. And then this lady took over, and we had like the worst breakfast ever. And Hannah, that's her second job, is she works in hospitality, in management. And like, she's sitting there and she's looking at this breakfast and she's like, these waffles are made, they were plain, right? And like everything before said, you get like all these different fancy dishes, and one of them was waffles, but it was like carrot cake waffle, something more fancy. And this was like plain waffle. And it was like the cheapest box stuff that you can get at Walmart. And so like she's doing the cost, and I paid like 20 something a plate for breakfast. And it was like a 35-cent. Well, you bought it blind. We didn't know what it was going to be. But yeah, it was plain boxed waffle. It was so dry, I had to stop because I was choking on it. Like I was trying to drown it in syrup and even water, and I was choking on it. But anyway, we are way, way, way off base here. But yeah, when you work in the hospitality industry and you see such bad service, and I try to leave a review, but the places like have reviews shut down for this place because of the media attention they got for other things. So
I'd say medium large, Liz. And I have not forgotten your birthday. It just sneaks up on me. Hey, Frankie.
Yeah, hey, Frankie. Yeah, I don't forget my wife's birthday. Man.
I don't either. I usually get presents like month and a half before, and I didn't. This time it kind of snuck up on me. But I didn't forget about it.
Small / medium or medium / large for a hat?
Yeah, it's flex fit. So I'd say
Liz, we are men.
Large.
I don't even know.
And I highly doubt that Aaron forgot your birthday, because you seem like the type of person that'd be like, you know what 4 days from now is? Oh, honey, I'm so ready for tomorrow.
Hannah, if you're in the chat, if you could answer Liz's question and tell me whether, I'm guessing medium / large. I don't know.
Extra large for Gooch, and I would say medium large. Yeah.
I don't have any clue.
For 7 3/4.
What's that?
For 7 3/4, I would think medium large.
Okay.
Just based off hats I've gotten.
Yeah, and I mean, Gooch's head just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Thanks, Dan, for
pumping him up,
for calling him the talent.
I wear mine bigger, and I also wear mine backwards, so it's Plus, I gotta have all that room to fit my head through doorways. You know what I'm saying? The talent and all that.
Oh man. So we Aaron
had to.
I forgot to, but yeah, someone was going to do it.
Well, we usually end up doing it at the same time.
Yep, and then undoing what the other one did. But so Chiefs are coming off a bye week. I don't know about you guys, but this weekend, I'm not saying it was bad football, but it was hard for me, at least, as a petty Chiefs fan, because I was stuck between having to root for fellow AFC West teams or root for teams that I absolutely hate their fan base and want their fan base to suffer. And so I was stuck in each of these games, the Chargers-Lions game, because Lions fans, listen, it's I think we all have sympathy for Lions fans, right? And I think we all have great appreciation for some of the immensely talented players they've had, and we feel sorry for them a bit. But to talk from Lions fans right now, when you beat the Chiefs by 1 point without the greatest tight end of all time and the best defensive tackle in the NFL, is insane. I was expecting a 3-point game preseason, before we were without Chris and before we were without Travis. Whoa.
Sorry, that's gutter.
Well, it kind of sounded demonic, so I thought it might be Gooch, but no, this is where Gooch says, no, that was Liz.
I was gonna guess
He
it'd
was
be Liz.
he was
But,
rubbing his face on the microphone.
Yeah, and Frankie adds to that, and a ton of dropped passes on enormous plays, and a dropped, are we calling it that? A tipped pick six, and you win by 1 point, and like being braggadocious jerk offs doesn't endear people to your fan base and want to continue to root for your team to have success or to even be empathetic for you anymore. Like, be realistic, right? I picked the Lions on Dan Talks Football. I picked before the season began, I picked a week 1 rematch for the Super Bowl, that it would be Chiefs and Lions in the Super Bowl. So I have the utmost respect for the Lions, but for their fan base to say a 1-point game without the greatest tight end of all time and Chris Jones and some fluky stuff going on, a 1-point game, and you want to act like you blew the Chiefs out by 35 is just irritating to the ends of the earth. But so I was stuck. Do you root for the Lions? You know, do you want to see the Chargers beat them? Do you want to see the Chargers lose and Kansas City's lead in the AFC West get bigger? You know, it was the same thing with Denver and the Bengals. Who's the third game I'm missing? Or did I mix up a game?
Buffalo lost to Denver.
Yeah, that's what it was. Sorry. Denver and Buffalo. Yeah.
Which, yeah, I actually didn't watch it or anything. I didn't pay attention to it at all. Somebody at work told me. My buddy Shane, I actually used to work with him at my previous job. So that was kind of crazy. I switched to third shift. My first day back on third shift was his first day with us. And then I ended up training him. So it's kind of funny. He's a good kid. Hey, Shane, if you're watching, he does watch.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Frankie. Yeah, it was as Aaron said, it was Bills and Broncos, but it's like the same thing. You know, it's like there were 2 games where it was you want your AFC West, you know, opponents, it's hard to call them rivals, to lose, but you also have them playing 2 teams that you hate, and it's like, you know, what do you do there? But yeah. So what were you guys rooting for? Were you rooting for, am I the only one who's that petty that
Yes.
I would have any inner turmoil rooting, whether to root for the Bills or Broncos or to root for the Chargers or the Lions?
I think we've got a decent enough lead. I'm good with them dropping teams that are competing with us. Because they're really not. As of yet.
Yeah. Frankie says there's a possibility that the Vikings catch and pass the Lions. And I don't think so, but I do have the Vikings as a playoff team. And I did have them having a record very similar to what they had last year. You know, like, yeah, they don't have Dalvin Cook anymore. Of course, that was before, you know, Kirk Cousins goes down. So, but, you know, Dobbs is off to a great start there. But, you know, I just thought that Brian Flores was going to, they had all that luck last year, but I just kind of felt like Brian Flores on the defense was going to kind of replace the luck that they were having in some of these games and kind of offset it to where they would have a fairly similar results record wise. But I still don't think they have enough, but you know, I mean, anything could happen there. I know the people in Minnesota would be excited for that. I don't know if Gooch is there. Gooch, are you as petty as I am when it came to some of these matchups this weekend and not knowing who you wanted to root for because you wanted both teams to lose?
Oh, it's tough. You definitely want both teams to lose. Just wish it could happen.
Or like a 0-0 tie?
You're talking to King Petty. I didn't mind the Kings loss, but I just needed somebody to catch COVID or something and be out for a couple of weeks. Just, big shout out to Shawn, who decided to have season-ending surgery, which will now give the Bills and Bengals a chance to get into the playoffs. Because I really thought that they were going to make it difficult.
Yeah,
But now you got PJ Walker. Think about this, and I'll shut up. The Browns had Josh Dobbs. The guy that went to Minnesota 10 days ago and won 2 games. That guy, the Browns had him. And they let him go for PJ Walker and the 5th-round wide receiver that's now playing quarterback. What's his name? Thompson Johnson or Thompson Robinson or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Dorian,
DTR? Is that who you're talking about?
Dorian Thompson
Thompson
Robinson.
I like him. I'd like to see him get a little shot. I didn't watch him in preseason at all, but I was impressed with him at the combine.
Yeah, so Gooch, you're a little bit more petty than me. I wouldn't
think.
Yeah, just a smidgen.
Liz says you're the queen, Gooch.
Yep, the queen of petty.
There's a lot of hatred for the devil over there.
I don't know why she went there, but
the accuser. Well, we mentioned the Bills a little bit here already, but what does the Ken Dorsey firing mean for the Bills, and what does it mean for their playoff hopes and maybe some of these other teams' playoff hopes? Gooch already said, with Deshaun out, that might open up a playoff spot for another team in the NFC or the AFC North. By the way, Gooch, in regards to Deshaun going on, having that season-ending injury and going on IR, you got to hand it to him.
Welcome in, Scott. Good to see you, man.
Nobody's going to hand it to him. I got all kinds of Deshaun hand jokes. Maybe I needed to massage that joke a little bit more.
Sorry, I lost focus. I saw Scott start commenting, saying hi.
Frankie says they'll hire an offensive coordinator that will actually be on the field. It's interesting you say that because I actually mentioned that on the Dan show last night. It's like on the one, here was my take, and you guys can tell me where I'm wrong on here, but my take is that this was kind of a scapegoat firing because, when I watched the game the other night, to me, the offense looked pretty good. The running game was going fairly good as well. And, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought James Cook was rolling there a little bit. I can pull.
He has been all year.
I can pull up the stats for the game, but what I saw of it, I thought, the Bills had 192 rushing yards. How many of that was Josh?
I'd say their cap room is going to get better, though.
13 yards of that was Josh. So James Cook had 12 carries for 109 yards. James Cook was averaging 9.1 yards per carry. 12 carries, 109 yards. Latavius Murray had 9 carries for 68 yards for 7.6 yard average. So they were running the ball. Like,
I wanted Cook. I thought he was way underrated in the draft process. I kept saying that.
I had him on my fantasy. Well, you would know. I had him on my fantasy team last year with you guys, and I eventually cut him because he didn't really do a whole lot to help last season. But I was expecting him to do good things. I was just happy they didn't draft Brees Hall last year because that was my crush, and then I got him onto you guys and Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And man, I was so afraid the Bills were going to take. Could you imagine the
You're
Bills
definitely right on with him.
with Brees Hall? So, but yeah,
Cook
I
is
felt like
bad
it was a
enough.
scapegoat. Like, to
Oh,
me,
absolutely.
the broken part of that team is the defense, and that just happens to be what Shawn McDermott is coaching this year after Leslie Frazier's mysterious, leaving the team. And so, but yeah, I'm with you, Frankie, and that was one of the things I did say though, is I still think there was a drop off between Brian Dable and Ken Dorsey, and I think that's one of the things that was missing was, with Dable, you had him right there in Josh's ear, or to kick his butt when needed to kind of get him back under control. But you had Dorsey up in the box the whole game, so he wasn't there to be able to like get Josh going, get him out of his own head, getting him playing the way he needed to be playing. So I do think that could be a part of it, but I still think overall, I think it's a scapegoat firing. So if we're in agreement on that, then does it really matter what they do for offensive coordinator the rest of the season? Like, is it going to matter, or do they need to fix things on the defensive end?
They absolutely need to fix things on the defensive end. That's what's hurting them so bad. But yeah, Josh is reverting to what we all said he was. Gooch was probably the most vocal on that.
Dang right I was. Nobody really wanted to listen outside of this group right here.
He's not that accurate. Yeah, he's got a hell of an arm.
The thing is he's uber talented. He is. The problem is that when he makes those throws and they work, everybody talks about how great he is and how he can pull off these throws that very few people can. But when he's facing, I don't even want to say elite talent, but when he's facing guys that study and put in the work, and then all of a sudden those throws don't work, then it's like, oh, he's turnover prone. The problem is he's always been turnover prone. The difference is that usually the talent around him is so good he gets a chance to win the game.
You said he's always what? You broke up on that part.
He's always been turnover prone.
Yeah.
The difference is that his defense has always been more than above average to get him the ball back, to get him a chance to win. And this year, like, let's face it, when you're missing an all-world linebacker and all-world safety, you know what I'm saying, that can cover up a lot of your defensive mistakes, and now your defense is, coming back to the mean, you can't play that hero ball and make those kind of mistakes and think, oh, we'll just get them by the end of the game. You know what I'm saying? This has always been Josh. When somebody was, I can't remember who on RGR was talking about how his year one leap to year two leap was so great. It was the biggest in NFL history and this, that, and the other. And I was like, that's not who he is. And Keys was like, that's Dayball doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dayball is the reason he's making that jump. And I'm like, he's not this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're now seeing what he really is, which is, if you go back, which I did on behalf of the fact that I heard either Colin Coward or one of them say something. If you go back to high school and college, This Josh Allen is that Josh Allen. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Supremely talented, but really, when it comes to his decision making, is just that old meme like they'd have for Patrick Mahomes, like, oh, I'll just throw it up, Tyreek's down there somewhere. For him, it's just like, I'm gonna just chuck it. I'm talented enough that this will work. And no, it's not.
What I hear you saying, Gooch, is there's a reason that he ended up playing for the University of Wyoming.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. And I don't know how many times I've gotten attacked by table jumpers who insisted that there was some kind of program or whatever that Josh Allen that was doing that was helping him become more accurate. And it was completely in no way Brian Dable. And we would have these arguments before they would get to itching to go jump through another table and sustain more brain damage. But it's just maddening. And I think we've seen the proof now. Dable's been gone for a season and a half now, and Allen has steadily gotten worse. And if they want to blame that on Ken Dorsey, I mean, they can, but it's really Josh Allen. And, I kind of tongue-in-cheek brought this up preseason, but I think there's a little bit of merit to it because Josh Allen dumped his girlfriend and got a new girlfriend this offseason. And, to me, like, I've been married now for almost 15 years. And so when you got some kind of dynamics going on like that, there's also some personal stuff going on, mental, discipline. Like, it affects multiple areas of your life. And I don't know who initiated that one, but I can guarantee you that there's at least a little sliver of that, right? That's to play there.
Hey, Hannah, welcome in.
What you're trying to say is his girlfriend might be a vegetarian. And for those of you that are married or have long-term girlfriends, you'll know what I mean when I say that. And that could be affecting his play.
Liz and I are 12 years. Just celebrated 12 years exactly a month ago.
Oh, I think I get what you're saying now, but I had no idea what you were saying, but I think I do. But like I said, it's a new girlfriend now, and I forget who it is, but she's like an actress or model or something, isn't she? Like
she doesn't like me.
He doesn't like, he dumped his longtime, like his high school sweetheart, basically, right? I think that was the story.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Scott and Hannah.
Aaron, did you say that you and Liz have celebrated 12 years?
Yes.
Now, I need you to be careful because that is your second six. Okay? You know what happens when you hit the third one.
I thought it was 7-year itch.
I'm saying you made the first 6 years. Now you get the second 6. When you hit the third 6, you know what that is. I mean, I'm just telling you now. 3 6s is the mark of the beast.
Let's hope you're wrong.
Also, the Ken Dorsey firing is a scapegoat firing to appease. And I'm gonna copy Trayvon Diggs and say the same thing. That's to appease Stephon. Because I think Steph wants out. And Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until Dayball and Stephon were both there. And Stephon hasn't been getting the ball. That's all Josh Allen. But they're going to fire Dorsey and say, well, he wasn't calling the plays for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's just to appease, because if he can, he'll walk after this year. I assure you. Especially if he thinks that Super Bowl window is closed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you think there would...
One more thing before you start. Shout out to Jason Dunn. Today's his birthday, 50 years old. If you haven't said anything, make sure you jump on his Twitter page and say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's our guy.
Absolutely is. And I saw that earlier and I forgot I was going to mention it. So I'm glad you remembered it, Gooch. All I was going to say is, Gooch, do you think that there's a possibility if what you said were to happen, that Stephon Diggs might have his agent call up Brett Veach.
Yeah,
I
say
think
happy birthday to the best blocking tight end ever.
I ain't doing anything for my hair, Hannah. Josh Allen's girlfriend's a vegetarian. I know you'll know what that means. And I think that if Steph were to leave, there's really only, if you want me to be honest, 4 to 5 teams that he could go. Chiefs, Eagles, Bengals, Niners,
What's his
or
contract look like?
or Cowboys to be with his brother. I think he's in the last couple of years because he signed an extension when he got there, and he's had to have been there 3 years already, right?
I'm looking it up.
Him too.
And I think I would have him call Beach or San Francisco or something. I take, you want to go to one of these contenders that you know is going to perennially be in the playoffs and a chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, right now that's Chiefs and Eagles, but
Yeah.
the Niners, man, to find cap space. I don't know, from under their pillow or something for all these studs they're acquiring to try and make this run this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
He is
So
signed through 2027.
yeah, he let me see. I think I'm gonna get this up.
That contract is huge. Yeah, I don't think we'd be in competition for him.
Now,
Yeah, so
he'll pull a Frank Clark if he really wants to get out. He'll give up some money.
just kind of a matter of how much they can. Let's see. So next year's when the cap hits start to really go up. So there would be some incentive for him there, but the dead cap for next year, that's if they cut him. So if they, let me look. If they
I don't see that happening.
If they traded him, let's say pre-June 1st, that's still a pretty hefty cap hit. I couldn't see a post June 1st trade because, like, who's going to wait around that long? And would the Bills really take like a following year's? I mean, maybe if they took like a following year's conditional pick. I don't know. I mean, I can look at that, but yeah, pre-June 1st trade, that's still, even to me, it seems like too big of a cap hit for like that they would be willing to do. But let me check a post-June, if someone missed out in the draft. And
Actually, I'm not even looking at stuff because I think the receiver thing they'll figure out, especially if Rice continues to come around and if Ross doesn't get cut and he gets some playing time. What I'd really be interested to see is the pieces off that Cleveland Brown defense next year, because with Deshaun and them playing with that money the first year and then restructuring them last year, Deshaun's cap hit for the next 4 years of that deal is $64 million. They're not going to be able to keep all those pieces. And I wouldn't mind a couple of those guys, continuing the youth movement in Kansas City.
Frankie, I didn't see what the comment was there. It was removed or banned or something before I saw it. Maybe Liz did that.
I got rid of it.
Oh, Aaron did.
I was actually gonna answer it, but then I couldn't find a nice way to say what I wanted to say that was kid friendly in case.
Well, what was the comment?
I figured it's best to ignore it.
My nieces and nephews.
Don't worry about it, Steve. I'll tell you later.
In case my nieces and nephews might be within earshot, I didn't need them hearing,
Well,
what did Frankie say?
He just asked, "Who is this?"
I
don't
have
know.
no idea who that is. Ali. I've never seen
Liz
them get.
says we're not talking about the Broncos.
I don't know how they found us.
I don't either. And we'll
Oh.
tell you later, Keys. Don't worry about it.
I have an idea. Does it involve a stupid Chiefs nickname?
No.
Okay. No clue. All right, you guys can tell me later. But
Hi, Hannah.
A little late there, Gooch.
well, no, he was early too. He was about what 25 minutes early. He started
Yeah.
out with the high Hannah, I think. But
Oh, really?
I'm usually late to everything, so the fact that I was late with that doesn't surprise anybody.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to trade Stephon Diggs, like after, like in the middle of the offseason next year, you know, if something happened, like I guess that would be feasible, and you could do it as a you know, some conditional picks. So we have a couple Scotts in here. This is great.
Yep.
Great Scott.
Faraj is my neighbor. He's pretty much family.
Great Scott. That took me back to my Back to the Future days. Oh,
I have, there are only 1, 2, 3, I want to say 6 other houses on my block on both sides of the street. And 2 of them are Broncos fans. Like, we're in central Kansas. How does this happen? There are way too many Raiders fans and Broncos fans here for central Kansas, a small town in central Kansas. And it drives me crazy. I don't understand how it's possible.
I could semi-see Denver since they're close, but I can't see Raiders. I don't get the Raiders thing.
I can tell you what it is. It's the educational system. It's the new math. It's the new math. It drives me crazy. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
You're gonna have to pull out a Madden Skadoodle and like draw that one up for me, Gooch. So
don't worry, I have a cover for you, brother.
all right, so
I can't do anything else with this channel. The least I can do is scribble something out for you.
I'm not real sure what Liz means on this.
Oh, because I said something about your second 6 being your 12 years in. So she's telling me be careful of who I put my money on in your marriage.
I don't know what that means, though.
That basically means that she'll be here longer than you will if I keep playing around or you keep playing around.
That's pretty much a given.
Aaron, do you have life insurance?
Of course. She has life insurance through her work on me as well.
Is my name on it? Because that way I can save the animals and we can party like Kennedy's in Florida in your honor.
I can't tell you how many times I reminded Hannah and her dad various activities like shooting guns, or the time I helped him move a porcelain bathtub to his basement, right, which he let down by a string, and I was on the bottom end. I've reminded both of them multiple times. I don't have life insurance, so you know, you can't kill me on purpose.
Actually, they can if they have homeowners insurance, because then Hannah could, basically,
Hannah,
in
go back to work.
quotations, sue her parents for your death as an accidental. She can get money out the insurance company, and of course, help her parents out. It'd all be in your honor, of course. Yeah,
right.
I believe you can get insurance to where if one of you dies, the house is automatically paid off.
That's crazy. That would be cool.
That's how my car is and house is right now. Only problem is I don't have a beneficiary. So there you go.
You hear that, ladies?
You're saying ladies. I don't think you understand that you, Liz, and Aaron are the only 3 people that really can put up with me.
There are any ladies out there who are not team vegetarian who can put up with Gooch and that haircut, drop your number for him.
That wasn't even a haircut, bro. That was me at my worst. Are you kidding?
Team meat lovers.
That's why I need a hat.
Oh man. So back to our original question here
Uh,
on the Bills. Uh, what does it mean for the playoffs? Or what does it mean for the AFC East? Is there a team in either the East or one of the other divisions that are gonna sneak into the playoffs now because the Bills aren't gonna make the playoffs? What are we thinking?
Well, the Bills aren't in the playoffs if they started right now anyway. But I think this was, like I said, I think this is either to appease certain players, or this is just the beginning of a rebuild on that team.
Frankie says the Texans, which I could see that. CJ Stroud is everything I thought he would be. He is the most NFL ready quarterback I've seen. He's got 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. It took several weeks to throw that first interception.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Second fastest to 2,500 yards in the season behind Mahomes. Mahomes did it in 8 games. CJ did it in 9.
All right,
It
so
doesn't
here's
count since he wasn't a rookie, though. That's what
here's our
counts.
playoff picture right here. Right, if the playoffs started today, it would be Chiefs with the 1 seed, Ravens, Jags, Dolphins, Steelers, Browns, and Texans. Gooch. So the Bills are not in at this point. They're all the way down at number 10.
What were the Steelers again?
Number 5.
I don't think
They're
the Steelers make it.
That's
second
6 and
in the
3.
NFC North or AFC North.
I can't believe they're 6 and 3.
I don't believe. Well, I don't. I can believe that because Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in 16 years of being their head coach.
Right.
Well, I
but
figured they'd be close to 500, though.
but their defense is really good. It's like the Browns. Their defense is good, so the quarterback only really has to play don't mess up football,
Right.
and there's a good chance they'll win. But I don't think. Like I think they come back. I think they finish like 9 and 8 or something like that. Like I
That's
think
what I
eventually,
expect.
We're
like
talking
eventually
Steelers.
they're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's how the Bengals get in because the only tiebreaker the Bengals have in the AFC is with the Bills because they beat them. Other than that, they've been, and they got to face the Chiefs. But like right now, if they don't turn around, they don't get in. But I think that's how they're going to sneak in. I think you're going to get 3 of the 4 AFC North teams into the playoffs. I think it's going to be the Ravens, Bengals, and Browns.
So, Gooch, you said you think that the Steelers are going to finish 9 and 8.
Yep.
So that would have them going 3 and 5. They play the Bengals in Cincy. Then they play the Cardinals at home. They play the Patriots at home. Then they play the Colts on the road. Then they play the Bengals again at home this time. They play at the Seahawks, and they finish at the Ravens. So
I see 4 losses right there, and please don't think that somebody else couldn't sneak out another one. Like the Colts are frisky.
I think Seattle will be a good game.
Yeah, I think they lose to that one. I mean, it's the issue is like, did you say they play the Browns again?
no, they do.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
I skipped that
Pickett
one.
versus PJ Walker, and Pickett hasn't been great. Like he's not. Like I don't know what he does well. If you had a chance to watch that game, like I don't trust him. And I think they're going to
Good reason not to.
I think they're going to run into some losses that they didn't expect, and I could see 3 and 5. I really could, because I could almost because the Bengals are going to be in desperation mode. I can see the 2 losses there. I can see a loss to the Seahawks. I could see a loss to the Browns because of that defense, and the Colts are feisty. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not playing terrible football with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
Say they beat New England, and what was the one you said before that?
The Cardinals.
Yeah, they'll probably beat them, but Kyler Murray's back, and I mean, he's obviously a big upgrade over.
I mean, I could realistically see. I don't know that the Bengals can get two against them. Especially when you consider you have T.J. Watt and is it Alex Highsmith, and I mean they haven't played each other yet, right? And those guys get to go up. One of them gets to go up against Concrete Blockfeet Jr.
Yeah,
And
I like
so, I mean, I don't know. Mike Tomlin is such a solid coach. Like I get it because I'm not sold on Kenny Pickett. I'm not sold on him any way whatsoever. Right. Would I take him over a quarterback named Jones or Carr? Yes. But like, do I think he's the right quarterback? Not really.
I tell you what. I tell you what. If not for D'Amico Ryans, Tomlin would be my coach of the year candidate right now. 6-3 with that. 6-3 with that team. Like, and you're right. Like, I'm not knocking it. I just think the Bengals. I said the Bengals will win because they're going to be in desperation mode. Like, they're going to have to win out. They're going to have to get. They're going to have to get to 11 plus win. What are they 5 and? Are they 5-5?
They are 5-4.
Okay, they've got to win 6 of the next 9 or the next 8. They've got to win 6 of the next 8 to have a shot at the playoffs. Like 11 wins is going to get you in.
And they play the Ravens tomorrow night, right?
Right.
On short rest.
And I think they lose that one, especially for the Ravens. Any other time, I'd probably say the Bengals win, but they're going to be a little upset about that last-second loss to the Browns. I think that game's going to be better than people think. And I think the Ravens pull that off. So, I mean, they have to go 6-2 with 6-1 over their final 7 to make the playoffs.
If they do that, they deserve to make the playoffs because here's their remaining schedule. They play at the Ravens, they play at home versus the Steelers, then they play at the Jags, they play home versus the Colts, they play home versus the Vikings, then they play at Pittsburgh, then they come to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, and then they finish at home against the Browns. So if they only lose one, facing especially the Ravens, the Jags, and the Chiefs, who all three might be their division winners, on top of the Vikings, who are probably the number 2, and the Steelers, who, did I say right now they're number 2 in that division?
Yep. Steelers are.
So, I mean, if they pull that off, they kind of deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, like I figured 6-2 with a loss to the Ravens tomorrow and a loss to the Chiefs. Like if those 2 games are the losses, they have to win the other 6.
You don't think by December that Doug Peterson and the Jags will be able to win that game at home?
If you'd have asked me when they had rattled off those 4 or 5 wins in a row, I probably would have said yeah. But the last couple of weeks, the old Trevor hasn't looked like himself.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I just think at some point, though, you got to like Doug. I forget when their bye is or was, but I think at some point you got to like Doug to, kind of get things righted. It seemed like they went on a run last year as well, where they had lost.
They did.
Would they go 7-1? Their only loss was to the Chiefs, and then they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So
they rattled off a really good win streak after they had a.
Okay, so they already had their bye, but yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I can see it happening because I have so much respect for Lou Anarumo, and as Burrow gets healthy and he's got the weapons, but I still, when I look at the schedule, it's like if they do it, then they've earned it because I see a Ravens loss and I see 2 losses between the Jags, Vikings, and Chiefs. And I still think that they don't beat the Steelers both times. I think there's too much talent on that defense, especially. And Tomlin is just too good of a coach. And the other thing with that is that matchup is week 16? The second time they play them right before they play the Chiefs. I think it's week 16. So by then, the AFC North playoff picture is so in focus that both teams probably know whether they're playing for a playoff spot or not. And it's just so hard to see Mike Tomlin and that defense not coming out with at least one win. But that's
I
just me.
think when they started this season that this could be a season that the Bills and Bengals both not make the playoffs.
I thought it was possible. I didn't necessarily think it was going to happen, but I certainly thought it was possible because, well, I mean, here's my reasoning, Gooch. For the last couple of years, I made the triple S's, the spaghetti slurpers, mad by pointing out that it took the Ravens, Lamar, and Mark Andrews having bad injury luck for the Bengals to win that division. I want to say by 1 game. And I want to say the separation between them and the last place team in the AFC North was like 2 games. And they won that division by like the difference between them and the last place team was 2 games. And it took Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson getting hurt. So like for me, I thought for sure that the Ravens were going to make the playoffs as long as Lamar re-signed. And then when
there
you
was
looked
another injury too, the running back.
Yeah, they had a lot. I mean, that's just, they're basically the Chargers of the East with a hell of a lot better coach. But it's like when you looked at the rest of the division, the Browns were stacked, and it's just, just a matter of what your opinion of Deshaun and Kevin Stefanski was. Mike Tomlin is always solid, and somehow, even last year, right, managed to get the Steelers with a rookie Kenny Pickett into the playoffs. So I don't think you can ever discount them. So that was kind of my thought with the AFC North. And then you look at the AFC East, and, you had Aaron Rodgers joining a completely stacked Jets team. You had the Dolphins with a stacked team. And I had higher hopes for the Patriots, adding Bill O'Brien over the Matt Patricia project that just completely flamed out. And so the Bills were the one team that, of the two, that I definitely thought had a pretty good chance of missing the playoffs. Bengals, not so much, but still a possibility because I thought the Ravens were going to win that division. Do the ESPN NFL playoff machine. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And we're going to try to do an episode, right, where we break down every division, how we think each division is going to end, what the standings for each division will be. I think at some point.
Sounds good to me.
But
do you want to talk about your tiers at all that you did on Dan Talks Football?
Well, Gooch has his own tiers video. We can maybe do that next week or something if we want to get into it. But
sounds like I need to come up with mine.
Whoop. Here,
man, the Talents tiers and the Talents top 10 are staples now on the channel, baby.
Yep. All right, so let's see. What do we have here? Yeah, we already pretty much hit on this one talking about the Bengals and the Bills. Those were basically it for that.
I think we're doing a Week 11 preview. Yeah.
Yeah, what do we have to do to beat the Eagles?
Catch the ball.
Catch the ball.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Keep Mahomes clean, and do we know if the D tackle is going to play or not? The old world Fletcher Cox.
I don't know, but I don't think it matters with the way those Georgia boys have been playing.
All I need is a second half, like half of the. I need half of the first half against the Dolphins and both halves of the football game. I think our defense is good enough to run with the Eagles more so this year than last year. So I think the real big keys are keep the Eagles out of third and short. 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, because they're going to go for it on 4th down with that stupid tush push. And I think I was listening.
4th and short too, yeah.
Was that Keys?
Yep.
Had to have been as like when they run that play, they don't even run behind Jason Kelsey. They run behind Landon Dickerson.
That's just to give credit where it's due. That was Brett Coleman came out with that video, but yes, I was talking about it.
Like, so if you know that, and I think Keys, you said this, like Keys didn't even watch, like Keys isn't a defensive coordinator, watch some film or watch Brett Coleman or whoever that was his film, and you could see that. Please tell me, like, you got to believe Spags is like, okay, they're running it here. So, shift your line a little bit or something, or disrupt it or whatever. But even still, Jalen is 6'4" and can squat 720 pounds. So, the best bet is just to keep him out of third and short and make him beat you. But I have faith that Andy and Mahomes have figured out something, and the offense is going to click a little better than what we've seen in the first half.
There's going to be a lot of self-scouting and mistakes fixed, just like they did, because people caught on to our center calling the run blocking plays and Mahomes calling the pass blocking plays. So they figured that out. So I'm expecting good things. And hopefully they get back to the basics with the wide receivers so that they can catch the ball. It's going to be a tough game.
I still think the Chiefs win.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the video. I don't think he took it down, but you never know.
I'm thinking like 27-24 Chiefs.
I was thinking 30-27.
So we're not far off.
Yeah, getting me to give you guys I'm not doing a score prediction because that never.
Well, I only say that because I'm not going to do the whole Andy Reid off of a bye. It's 27-4, and you should have that faith. But what I will say is, Andy seems to play really well against he seems to coach and prepare his team really well for the Eagles.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even with the different, from Dougie P to Sirianni, he just seems to prepare them well. You know what I'm saying? And they always manage to play well. So
we'll take all the holding calls too.
All right, so I'm not going to play this, but I'm going to put it up there for anyone who wants to see. This is the video by Brett Coleman, and he breaks it down for people. But yeah, that's the
That
bait.
guy knows his stuff. I like that.
Yeah,
guy.
he worked for, was it the Texans? He worked for an NFL team for a while.
He works for
NFL Network.
now. Yeah. And he
Yeah,
deserves it.
he worked for NFL Network, and I mean, he's been doing this off season, I think, and even through the season, he's been doing a little freelance work for the Chargers, breaking down their offense and defense for them for their website. I know he was breaking down last year for KCSN. He was breaking down Lou Anarumo, what the Bengals were doing against the Chiefs, and what the offense should do, and breaking down, I think, what Spags was doing. So
it's kind of a conflict of interest, though, isn't it? Him working with the Chargers.
He was just kind of doing it as like a freelance. He was just breaking down for their website. It was like, I know he did a video on Kellen Moore, a couple videos on Kellen Moore when they hired him. All right, hold on a second. I'm gonna have to mute.
All right, Steve's got to father his kids. I'm not sure. Yeah, Landon Dickerson is huge. That's who I'd run behind too. Gooch, what do you got?
With you, Landon Dickerson was the guy that I wanted us to draft as a center before we got Creed Humphrey. So, like, I know how nasty he is.
Right. Why does mine keep getting darker and darker?
All right, I'm back, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of sad that we drafted Creed because I knew that Tyler Linderbaum was coming out the following year. But yeah, Dickerson's like what? It's like 340 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a hoss and he's nasty. Like, that's why I was like, and I said something to Ryan about it. Ryan was like, no, he's injured and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, with medicine, first of all, you want somebody that nasty leading your offensive line. He just is. He would be leading the Eagles if it wasn't for Jason. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want that nasty person out there in the line. And I don't care that it's an ACL or whatever. He doesn't have to move far. He's fighting in a phone booth.
I'll be right back.
So, like, I was a huge fan of his. And then the Eagles managed to get, like, I don't know how they did it the last few years with Dickerson and those boys from Georgia. And, like, they're nasty on that line. The difference is that if you can, their secondary has gotten weak because they lost all those pieces. So if you can block up their line even decently, the secondary can be had. And there's very few quarterbacks outside of Mahomes and Burrow. And I'm actually seriously thinking. The only two quarterbacks I really trust to eat up a secondary would be Mahomes and Burrow. But Lamar on a good day, Herbert on a great day, like, the rest of those guys that are elite quarterbacks could do it. But Mahomes and Burrow are the only two that would probably be able to do it consistently. I mean, I hate to say it, but Dak did a pretty good job against it in that game they lost. The Cowboys actually should have won that game. I think they can be had. I think the biggest thing is they're like, the Eagles are a lot like the Dolphins and the Ravens in the fact that they kind of bum rush you in the beginning. And if you can survive the onslaught, you know what I'm saying, and hold it tight, you'd be able to come back. Hey, welcome back, H.
All right. And we had to in the Super Bowl, and that'll be the big thing with the offense. Like it's got to come out firing on all cylinders in this game, whether the first half or the second half. Like, we're not going to be able to fall behind or rely on. I don't think we're going to be able to rely on our defense uh, for most of the game. Like, we have to have a pretty complete team game for this one, and certainly the schedule makers gave each side, a little advantage there with the bye, and so that's nice. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really is going to come down to fixing the dysfunction with the wide receiver room, and you know, I think the Eagles staff is probably just as good, maybe even better on the defensive end. Um, I think their defensive coordinator now is better than Pew Pew in Arizona.
Here's the thing. I think coaching wise is pretty even across the board. But Sirianni to me is like the young Dan Campbell. And I think he gets them hyped and he talks about how they lost the Super Bowl and how this would be their chance to make a statement. You know what I'm saying? And even though some of those guys weren't there, get them fired up to, run through a wall. And that's where I'm like, survive the onslaught because I think they're going to come out super hyped, especially because it's going to be in KC. It's Monday Night Football. You know who's going to be there. And so it'll be a whole big thing about, trying to embarrass them in front of the famous pop star on national TV and kind of payback for the Super Bowl loss and this, that, and the other. Like that's why I'm like, if the Chiefs can survive the opening onslaught and keep it close, I think they win. But I think it's going to be a big emotional thing in the beginning. Sirianni might cry again, like he did at the Super Bowl.
I don't know. Like if you look at the two teams though, where do you think compare the Chiefs now to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and where have they gotten better and where have they gotten worse?
Defense.
Where do you think they've stayed the same?
I'd say the defense has gotten even better.
But all levels or
pretty much, but without Bolton, linebacking core is not quite what it was.
I mean, I think at the end the depth is though. Like the depth is better because of everything that Drew Tranquill can do.
And the more experience out of the other guys.
Yeah, out of Leo Chanel.
Cochran.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's good, but it's at least good for guys like Cochran and the guys at the bottom of that depth chart to get a little experience now during the regular season. I think we could say without a doubt, maybe not, but I think we could say without a doubt the secondary is better simply because you have McDuffie and Watson and Williams actually and Cook actually playing, knowing the system a bit. You guys saw the quote, right? Like of what was it? I forget the article it appeared in, but it was something about this reporter heard a couple Chiefs players, a couple rookie Chiefs players after the Super Bowl win say something to the extent of, we did that without even understanding the playbook. Imagine how much better we're going to be in year 2 when we actually understand what we're going to, what we're doing from the secondary. It just said a couple players in the secondary. So think about that. Whether that was McDuffie or, Watson and Williams or Cook and Williams or Cook and Watson, whatever it was, right? At least two of them.
McDuffie is even better.
at least two of them admitting that they didn't really know the playbook and they were playing in the Super Bowl against this team. So, do you see Mike Edwards as an improvement over Juan Thornhill that we had on the team last year?
He definitely gets his hands on the ball more.
Number one, he's healthy, so there's that. Number two, Juan was coming out of Virginia Tech, and he's supposed to be, is it Virginia Tech or was it Virginia?
Virginia Tech, wasn't it?
He's supposed to be a ball hawk, but he never lived up to that. And I also want to say, for all the dysfunction in the Chiefs wide receiver room, if you really think about it, the receiving core really hasn't changed. The only thing that we did was switch Rasheed Rice for Juju Smith-Schuster. Because they're still MVS, they're still Sky, they're still Justin Watson. We're getting the majority of the snaps. So the real question is, I don't know if it's dysfunction or if people have realized that outside of Justin Watson, those guys can't separate, and Rasheed is still learning the playbook. I mean, that's
right.
I think where we got worse was the offensive line. The only problem is I don't know why. And I'm not I know about the tackles. I'm not even talking about the tackles. I'm talking about our interior offensive line has been called for more holdings and stuff like that than they were called last year. Even Creed. You know what I'm saying? Just seems odd that they regressed a little bit this year.
And I could be wrong on this, so someone can do a deep dive on this. But I think that league-wide, we're kind of seeing this because we're seeing an uptick from defensive coordinators in the creativity of their stunts and blitzes that I think are confusing a lot of offensive lines this season, including our offensive line. So that may be, Gooch, that might be the biggest improvement we need to see coming out of the bye, having that time for Andy Heck to both really do a deeper scout into what's going on and for them to practice, all these different things that we're seeing. But, I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. If you watch the games, outside of just Chiefs games, I think you're seeing it league wide. You're just seeing a lot of creativity because offense is down. All across the league, offense is down. Passing EPA is down all across the league. All the top quarterbacks are, have been talked about for not looking as hot this year as they have in years past. And I think that that's part of it. But, finishing up with the defense, and we'll go back there. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement that the secondary and the linebacking core, we want to have Nick Bolton back healthy, but overall has improved. Would you guys agree that the defensive line has improved, or anyone out there think that losing Two Guns and Carlos Dunlap is a bigger loss than a whole offseason as a sophomore for George Karlaftis, bringing in FAU,
who's been a badass,
and Charles Omenihu.
Omenihu has been great too since he got back. Yeah, it's way improved over last year's Super Bowl, I would say.
Would you agree with that, Gooch?
I think in most cases I would, but there's also something to say about veteran leadership leading into the playoffs and for the Super Bowl and stuff. And I think the Dunlap thing hurts more in that retrospect than any other. Yes, Chanel was on the team last year, and all of that, and Karlaftis when we won the Super Bowl and this, that, and the other. But even still, you have to remember those are still young guys, and even Patrick said that he barely remembers the first Super Bowl. He was kind of just out there on instinct. And like sometimes people tend to underestimate the leader in the leadership aspect of it. To somebody that's gonna, when you get overhyped for something like that, people do. Like you get emotions run hot in that kind of situation. And for somebody that's, that's been in the league 10, 11 years, 100 sacks, he can pull you to the side and be like, calm down, because if you're running hot, let's face it, Chris Jones always runs hot. So he's not the guy you're going to who you can really turn to be like, hey, settle down. You know what I'm saying? Play within yourself. I mean, they've been better. Don't get me wrong. It's better. I just think with Dunlap gone, you're missing that sage voice on that line to kind of keep everybody grounded and focused. That's just my opinion, though.
I was gonna say, I think we all understand this comment, Hannah. This is where we differ. Gooch and I do not understand the 8 kids.
I mean, I understand how it happens.
Well, yeah.
And I think, not to steal anything from the new Hype show, but Keys is the Back Talk Bros sexy Batman, apparently.
I'm not gonna pretend to know what having 8 kids is like.
I mean, I've seen it on TV. There was a TV show called
Octomom or something.
No. It was an actual TV show. Like the 10 of us or something like that. Or it was an old one.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right?
We watched that.
I can imagine it from that perspective, but I mean,
Right.
Keys and Hannah both look good for having 8, because I swear for the Lord, I'd have gray hair, half of it gone because I done pulled it out.
I already do. My beard.
The punishments, kids would be sleeping outside because I'd be like, look, you are irritating me. Go sit on the porch.
That's why other people's kids are great.
That's right, because you can send them home.
I got a little gray. It's not where you can see it. Like
and you're how much younger than me?
I don't know. You're 40 what?
See, the problem is
2
that
years?
when you have 8 kids, the only downfall to that is the grandparents will not take all 8. And so, will they?
The father-in-law and stepmother-in-law has been, yeah. I think they're smart enough to realize if they want us to stay in this state, that's a failure of the other grandparents. Yeah.
See, my grandma would be like, so this week I'm going to take these 3 to 4, and then in a couple of weeks I'll take the other 4 when I've got the energy back. Like, she'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Or you can bring all 8 of them over, and the ones that go to sleep before you come back and get them can stay, and the other ones have to go.
Are you in a tunnel, Gooch?
I'm trying to get there, brother. I'm trying to get there. Give me a second.
We've only did one overnight with them, and that was Hannah's birthday weekend, but nobody died with that. But part of it is the oldest kid is just, so great that it makes everything else easier. Aaron, a couple of years younger, but I don't think it's that bad for 8 kids, but
I thought it was like 5 years. So,
I mean,
here's the funny thing though, is like, so Hannah's first job, her main job during the day is she works at a school, and she's constantly being yelled at by aides who think that she's a student. And this is an elementary school, by the way. So, but part of that's because she's only 5 foot. But it's.
I was about to ask.
It's partly because she's
one.
Is this
when we got married? She
actually
was like,
never met.
Yeah, when we got married, she was like 5 feet and like 90 pounds. Like at no point,
That is tiny.
at no point since we've been married or dating has she ever been able to donate blood because she doesn't meet like the minimum weight requirements for it. And so, yeah, she's small. Her mom's small. So yeah, she's like always telling me this aide mistook me for a student and started telling me to get back inside or this or that. And you know, her other job, like when she works at night, there's like all these teenage girls and boys who think that, you know, she's like one of their peers. So it's kind of funny. I'll take credit for that. Being married to me is a fountain of youth. So thank you for not laughing that hard.
And if you ever get into money problems, you can always sell one of the kids. You know what I'm saying? Oh, goodness gracious. We here at
No.
do not support the selling of children on the black market.
There's a PA.
You don't have to do that, Gooch. I lived and worked in the South for 7 years. So I learned what you do is you don't sell your kid, you sell their social security number to a relative so they can claim them on their taxes, and then they give you a cut. That's the fraud out there. I had coworkers telling me about this.
You can only claim like up to 4 or 5, and then the other ones don't add, well, they used to not add extra earned income credit for it once you get over a certain number. And so then you just have your, like you said, your relatives claim them to maximize their earned income, and then they give you, 60% or whatever, and everybody's happy. And Dan's taking food to stoners. So what you're saying, Dan, is that you've taken yourself to McDonald's. I get it, brother. It's okay.
That's all late night. That's all late night is at a fast food restaurant. I have some stories, Dan. I have some stories. Trust me. There was all I'm going to say about this is there was one place I had to do a delivery for, and after I walked out, I started to head back, and I got a call that like whoever made the order forgot to like put their sauce packets or something in, and they were demanding them. So I was going to have to come back. And because I didn't want to open that door and witness what I witnessed the first time, I just like put it on the doorknob and knocked and ran and got in my car.
You guys live in GB, right? I don't want to say the city name on here, but you guys live in GB, right?
Oh, this was in Iowa.
No, I'm talking about now.
Yeah. We live out in that area.
Okay.
But
I'm glad you knew what I was talking about. Like
yeah. So, but yep. All right, so offense. Sorry, we kind of got sidetracked there. Offense then. Gooch, you were already talking about the you didn't feel like the wide receiver room really changed. We basically swapped out Juju for Rice, which, given Juju's health issues, is probably a plus with Rice. I mean, we also got McCole Hardman back. So yeah, I mean, it's basically a wash there. You would have hoped to seen more out of Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, but there's hope in Chiefs Kingdom that they've been held back or used
it's not
in
even
different roles. So.
It's not even hope anymore. Reed said in his Monday presser, the first thing he said was people seem to forget that Toney had knee surgery at the start of the season. And so he hasn't been really playing him because he wants to make sure he's right. He doesn't want to get him back out there and have him really damage the knee and then be sitting for, the rest of the year. Like, that was Reed's first comment when somebody asked him, was like, Toney's only getting 7 snaps. And he was like, he had surgery at the beginning of the year, right? Like, I got to make sure that's right before I put him out there. So in a sense, he was holding him back for health reasons. Initially, I thought it was because he liked a little too much of the devil's lettuce, and he wasn't studying and stuff like he should have. But I mean, if that's
Dan brought
really,
that to our attention.
Right. Dan's mom, the insider.
I think if that really is the reason, and because he's watching out for the knee, that makes a lot of sense. And if waiting until the bye week to make sure he gets a clean bill of health from the trainers and the doctor, and then letting him loose. I mean, you have to assume with Andy, he doesn't really lie to the reporters. He kind of holds back important stuff if he needs to. But at this point, it's 7-2 with 8 games remaining. I think Andy's thinking, I've got 4 wins in the bag at least, which gets us to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So if it takes me 7 games to get everybody back or get Tony back up to speed where you can utilize him, it's worth it in the long run as opposed to playing him on a knee that he wasn't really sure about, or doctors were telling him, it's 75%, and then he gets injured for real. Now I'm lost. But you guys tell me. That's just what I heard. Like
I know.
Great to see you, by the way, Dan.
I think one of the things that I've noticed is Mahomes' footwork has been pretty good. He's just been hesitant to pull the trigger on those tight window throws. And I think it's because of the rotation. I think this bye
And the
week
trust.
kind of helped them settle in, and they're going to figure out what they can do and what they can't do, and I think it's going to get better. And I don't think McCole is going to be a big part of it, just like he wasn't. I think he'll have a couple of big catches, but he'll mostly be the return guy. Although since we didn't trade or cut, what's the dude's name?
Washington.
James.
Richie James, yeah.
Since we didn't trade or cut James, I think we may see a little bit more of him too, which would be really good.
He was IR, right?
Yeah, but he's back now.
Which that whole situation is kind of weird because wasn't there a rumor that he was asking to be traded or cut?
He wasn't asking when they traded back for McCole.
I thought that was Ross.
When they traded back for McCole, they gave him permission to seek a trade because McCole was back and basically was going to do the same thing that he was doing. But when he couldn't find a trade partner, the Chiefs aren't just going to cut him. I think they'll figure out a way to use him and maybe limit McCole to just kickoff and punt return duties, or vice versa. I would probably rather see Richie James back there because if McCole takes another punt inside the 5 and tries to run it, I swear to God, I'm going to lose some TVs.
If that keeps happening, I'm going to jump back onto the Fire Dave Tobe bandwagon. So here's my thing with that, Gooch. I know what Andy said, but what kind of confuses me is if you look at the week by week snap count in here, instead of just reading this, I'll just throw it up here on the screen so everybody can see it. So this is the team. This is all the receivers. I think that, can you guys see that good enough?
Good enough for you to read it.
Let me make it full screen.
Yeah, I made it full screen on mine, but so week 1, Kadarius Toney had 16 snaps. Week 2, he had 19. Week 3, he had 2. Week 4, he had 17. Then weeks 5 and 6, we see this big uptick at 25 and 30 respectively. Then back down to 13 in week 7, 12 in week 8, and down to 7 in week 9. So I don't think that, the whole injury thing really holds water because we see him start out higher week 1 and then we go down and dip, right? Then we come back up for a couple weeks and then we go back down.
I think 5 and 6 is where Watson was hurt, though.
And that's where I think the injury does hold water because 19 snaps is where you start him. you know what I'm saying, and you start to ramp him up, then he gets to 30 plus snaps in those 2 games, and maybe he goes and tells Burkholder that it's feeling weird or it's not as strong or whatever, and Burkholder tells Andy, hey, we may want to slow him down a little bit. Like he's good enough to play, but he's not feeling like strong. Like, like you know, we've had plenty of players where they're like, okay, this is the ramp up period, and they try to push him, and he doesn't feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Or he doesn't feel like it's he's not able to plant right or something like that, and or he doesn't trust it. And then Andy starts backing him off a little bit, hoping that he'll get healthy again. I mean, it could. I'm not arguing either way. I'm just saying I can see where you would look at it, but if I was the coach and I wanted this kid around for some, you know, for a couple more years and I had control over him for cheap, I'd be leery about risking him if I put him out there for 30 snaps, which is, I mean, if you figure most games are 60 total snaps, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he's like, it doesn't feel right to me. I would probably slowly back him off too, and then wait till he tells me he's good to go. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So now that I'm
thing,
looking at it, I'm seeing that Watson was hurt week 7, and actually Tony took a dip while he was gone.
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, if you look at Watson's season high, it was week 4, and that was 43, and his next highest one before week 9 was 31 in weeks 2 and 3. And, you know, that's right around what Tony was getting weeks 5 and 6. So yeah, week 4 was his highest week for snaps for Watson, and then, you know, week 7 is the week, and then he's kind of been getting ramped back up. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's possible that you have an injury that is nagging, and you know, I mean, the thing is, you usually aren't going to have a good 2 or 3 weeks. Like, if it's going to start popping up, it's usually going to pop up after that, you know, that next game. But we don't, I'm not going to say that teams don't always disclose every injury, but I'm not also going to say I'm not also going to say they don't. They do. I think I
Well,
said that right.
like I said, I'm not arguing either way because I can see it from both sides. So, like, I wouldn't, you know, I'm not. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on. I'll just say that. Like, I could see it from both sides. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, we have the same running back room, much to our chagrin, because I think most everyone was hoping that we would move on from CEH.
We're not.
Don't
We're
really
not
need
running,
to talk.
We're not running Pacheco like we did last year either. Now, here's the question for you: are we saving that for the second half of the season when the games get cold? Saving him for those days because
I hope so.
everybody's saying, "Oh, we're not running as much," but with his running style, you know who he reminds me of a lot is prime Derrick Henry. When he gets going, he's really hard to stop, and he doesn't shy away from hits. And maybe Derrick Henry is the wrong guy. Maybe more like Chubb. You know what I'm saying? Like he runs in there with bad intentions and doesn't avoid hits. And that could take a toll on your body as a running back. And maybe we're just waiting to use him so he can be as fresh as he's going to be because everybody's going to be sore, everybody's going to be dinged up. I mean, I'm really kind of bright siding this and hoping that it's not a matter of, you know, not. But and I cut you off, Keith. I'm sorry.
No, if I was going to say something by this point, I really don't remember. But I pulled up last year's snaps for Pacheco compared to this year's snaps. And I don't have a program right now where I could compare them. But I mean, the first 7 weeks for Pacheco, first 7 weeks, the most he has is 19. And this, it was 16, 5, 5, 17, 2, 10, and 19. So really sporadic there. Then you have the jump starting in week 9 after the bye, 22, 35, 26, 39, 25, 29, 27, 26, 27, 21. These are, these are snaps, not necessarily touches. These are snaps. So the most he had was 39, and he was only in the 30s 2 games last year before the playoffs. And and then this year's, which I can put up here. I can't do both of them as a comparison though. I think this is this year's. It's too small for me to see.
Me too. Okay. Now we're good.
Nope, that's last year's. Sorry, wrong one. Anyway, it's probably going to do that. All right, so let me click on the other one. So this is this year's, hopefully. Oh, come on. Come on.
It looks like Fabio, but it's actually a hood. Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought it was hair. It was
here we go.
Small.
I think this is what I had to do. I think that's what I was doing wrong. Please be right. All right, here we go. So this is this year's. 31, 34, 32, 42, 39, 45, 36, 33, 41. He didn't have
handoffs.
I mean, that's a different stat, but he already, what we're talking about is snaps. And he only had 2 in the 30s last year, and he didn't have any in the 40s. This year, every week has been at least in the 30s, and he's had 3 weeks already, halfway into the season, in the 40s. So, I mean, there's that. I can change it. Make sure I get the right year. I can change it to right snaps. Let's see, season stats. If you want to do that, I can do that for both years. So last year he had 170 rushes in 17 games. This year he has 124 and 9.
What were his snaps? Like 340?
Let's see.
But he's only carried the ball 125, 124. But
I know for a fact we're not using McKinnon until after the bye.
333.
330. He's had 333 snaps so far this season.
And 200 of those, over 200 of those times, he wasn't at least handed the ball.
He had
been thrown to.
He had what did I do? He had 440 total snaps last year. That's including the playoffs. That's including 60, 89 in the playoffs. So if you subtract, so 340, 351 without the playoffs last year. He had 351 snaps last year before the playoffs. He's already at 333 coming off the bye week. So, I mean, he's going to blow past that for Pacheco for just snaps.
And hopefully they will ramp up on the running game with it getting colder outside so we can actually get through some people.
So he had 170 rushes last year in 17 games. So that's what, 10 a game? Fast math there. That one's pretty easy. Yeah, that should be 10 a game. This year he has 124 through 9 games. That's 13.8 carries a game. So he had an increase of almost 4 carries a game so far this season.
Right on.
for Pacheco. So, but yeah, we have the same running back room. The only thing that's really changed in the running back area is Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr. were better run blockers, I think, without a doubt, than Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor are. That's not something that was, unknown to, when either of these moves were made, people were talking about those facts. That Jawan Taylor wasn't necessarily a great run blocker. You got the same thing with Donovan Smith. So we know that the team took a downturn there. And I think the biggest issue with that is they keep wanting to run outside zone. And maybe to Gooch's point, there's a reason they're not running it inside. And it comes down to whatever the reason is that the interior offensive line hasn't looked as good. But again, my hypothesis was you got all the stunts and creativity that defensive coordinators are doing that is messing things up on there. So, I mean, overall, though, are we really seeing anything on the offensive end that we would say we've fallen backwards on?
Hopefully not. Sorry, I'm distracted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Gooch, you think so? We've seen Blaine Gabbert not look very good. Do we think we've fallen back in the quarterback room area?
Absolutely. I would have kept Bouchel over Blaine Gabbert. That's just my opinion. I think Bouchel had the trust of a lot of those guys that aren't starting. Bouchel had a rapport with them, and Blaine Gabbert has always been Blaine Gabbert. It's always been this guy that we saw in the preseason and stuff like that. Like, it hasn't changed.
I will not talk bad about a Mizzou guy. With his experience, I wouldn't think so, but he also hasn't started much. So I don't know if that would possibly be a downtick from Henny.
Just saying, if I would be worried if we needed to go 99 yards while Mahomes was out with an injury, unlike I would be with Henny.
Especially with the rest of the offense. Like, I think if we see an uptick if we see an uptick with everything that's kind of been off this year, maybe it's different. I still think going from Henny to Gabbert for me is a positive because Henny looked like a statue and his arm just did not look like it had any strength last year, and
we definitely didn't expect the 97-yard drive out of him.
But that was aided by a huge run, if I recall correctly, right? There was a huge run in that.
True.
I don't know. I like the one game that we have to base Gabbert off of that he didn't look good in. I mean, he's been with this team now for 9 games. Right, Chad Henne had been with the team 3 years? Last year was his 3rd year, if I recall correctly,
Is
or
that
second.
it? I thought it was more than
3
that.
or 4.
I don't know.
Between Henne and Moore, I kind of have them confused a little bit. I'll pull it up here, but I think that with some of it, he's learning the offense. But I think as far as mobility and arm strength, to me, Gabbert is a huge improvement over what Chad Henne was when he retired last year.
Definitely arm
No
strength.
disrespect to him. So let's see. 4 years.
Definitely arm strength, though.
Last year was Henne's 4th year with Kansas City. So he came Mahomes' first year as a starter.
It felt like longer.
Yeah. So
honestly, anything is possible, though.
Aaron, I know you got to leave, and that's fine. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up, and so I can wait to do that, and Gooch and I can talk about it because Aaron's got to go to work, guys. So if you want to say anything and take off, you can go ahead and do that, and then I'll just throw this out to Gooch really quick. We'll kind of go off of that if you want to do that.
I don't really have a whole lot. I'll just say it's great to see everybody, both Scotts, Hannah, the wife, of course, getting in on the chat this time, Frankie,
Dan
talks football. Go check him out.
Dan's mom, the insider.
Steve was on Dan Talks Football, and then Gooch was in the comments. So,
yep. And I'll be on again next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I believe.
Cool.
But, yeah. So Aaron will be back.
Have a good one, everybody. See ya, bros.
See ya. Take care.
You too.
So Gooch, I believe you. Yeah, I know you subscribe to Seth's newsletter, Chief in the North, because you pay the premium price, and I pay like $6 for a whole year or something ridiculous like that I got locked into.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous, and I should feel more guilty about it. But because I have 8 kids, I justify it a little bit. But Seth's newest piece, I don't know if you saw it, but he talked about, or well, it's probably not his newest piece now, but a day or two ago, he had his 5 things he would do to during the bye to fix the offense. I don't know if you got a chance to read that at all.
I did not.
It was a good piece. I don't want to pull it up necessarily because it was a paid one. But it got me to thinking what my things would be. Not that I disagreed with Seth. I think he kind of talked about some things that have kind of been talked about, ad nauseum, like getting Sky back in the slot, using Rice, outside, and having a core group of wide receivers that that are your regular guys instead of all the rotation. And so, those kinds of things, trying to think, running the ball more consistently, I think was one of them. But it got me to thinking, and I had like here are 2 things that I have. If I don't forget my one, and I just did. So the second thing I was thinking of was, I have argued and maybe not been too kind to Connor Embry all season, and by extension, Andy Reid, for taking a guy who played running back in college and who was like a quality control coach or something, basically watching tape and scouting teams, and making him your wide receiver coach with a young group of receivers, instead of maybe making him the assistant wide receiver coach and having a legit wide receiver coach, that he can learn from for a year or 2 or whatever. So here's my idea off of that. And this is partially, I got to give him credit. this is partially because of I caught Tyreek Hill's podcast the other day, talking about the Chiefs and Dolphins, and I caught a little bit of it, and he was talking about an old friend of the team, former wide receivers coach David Culley, who basically told him when he got to the NFL, I don't care about your past. Like, I don't care what you did before you got to the NFL, and no one does either. You need to produce in the NFL. And so that got me thinking, well, what is David Culley doing since he wrongfully got fired from the Texans? He's sitting at home. He's not coaching. He hasn't coached since he got fired from the Texans. So one of my two things would be is calling David and saying, hey, David, right? David and Andy are good buds. David was on this coaching staff for a long time. When he left, he was the wide receivers coach / the assistant head coach. So that tells you something of what Andy thought of him. I would say, hey, David, I know you're sitting at home. You know, you don't really care a whole lot right now, but how would you like to join a team that just won a Super Bowl that you were a part of before? Come get a ring, help with the wide receivers, help us with some other offensive aspects, right? That maybe you haven't done before. Or maybe he has as the assistant head coach. I don't know. Maybe bring him in as like a assistant head coach B. But help out with the wide receivers and help Connor Embry understand his job. Help these younger wide receivers, maybe bring some clarity to the position, and help push some of these guys across the finish line. And I'm not saying that, what Tyreek did was all David Culley. I'm not saying that, but maybe he had a decent part in that. Andy's thought a lot of him. He had him in Philly. He brought him to Kansas City. Tyreek's mentioning him. Like, he obviously had an impact on Tyreek, and Tyreek's what we want on the football field. Tyreek's ascendancy and growth as an NFL player is what we want to see out of our wide receivers. So to me, that was my biggest idea, is try to see if you can get David Culley to come join your staff, in some capacity, where he's partially, responsible for helping Connor Embry learn his position and helping the wide receivers through their struggles. And Gooch is speechless.
I like it. Anything that'll help the team, I'm with.
Man, I had a second idea, and I know it was a good idea because I had it, but I just can't think of what it was. So, yeah. I really wish I could remember what it was, which kind of ticks me off. But one of the other things Seth was talking about was our 12 and 13 personnel and how we haven't really used them. We haven't seen an uptick over last year like we might expect, especially when you look at their success rate, as measured by EPA per play this season. Maybe the argument is that Andy doesn't want to throw them out there too much to where it's kind of like Mahomes in 2018 and 2019, where you do so well that defensive coordinators are forced to adjust and react. Like, maybe that's it. I don't know. What do you think? Is Andy trying to not throw too much of a volume of 12 and 13 personnel out there so that defensive coordinators make an adjustment to it?
It could be that. Or it could be when he does start using it regularly and defensive coordinators do make an adjustment and we have to go back to what we're running now, seeing if that's viable, if they manage to start trying to take most of that away. You know what I'm saying? And using that in retrospect or in hindsight when they start taking away Tyreek. And Mahomes was still trying to, shoot it down the field to Tyreek. and it took him 4 or 5 weeks to figure out how to beat it, and this, that, and the other. Like, I mean, it could be. I think maybe they spent the first half of this year trying to see what they really got with everybody before he starts bringing out the stuff that they're going to run regularly.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, right? I think we talked about it week 2 or 3, in that this might be the year that instead of Spags experimenting and adjusting at the bye, that it's Andy with the offense experimenting and adjusting at the bye, with especially with the wide receiver room as big as it was. And so I don't want to discount that, but I'm also a show me person. And I'm also a little afraid that this argument is too parallel to the Andy has a zillion plays and he's always holding back his playbook argument that we hear every year, but we never really see play out, especially in the playoffs. We see an extra couple plays, right, in each playoff game, but we don't see anything near, what the legend that people create every year is, that Andy has this magical, completely different playbook that he keeps hidden under his pillow until the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. If he's not whipping out new plays, I'm worried that he's getting comfortable with what he does have and trust Mahomes to make it work when even Mahomes is going to need help. Like, the one thing about the great quarterbacks is you change up on them and you continue to coach and teach them. And I don't want Andy and Nagy getting too complacent with what he does this well, because Mahomes does everything well. You know what I'm saying? All you got to really do is switch it up. You got to give these teams different looks and stuff like that, so they don't key off come playoff time. But I do like where the defense is. Like, I really do think it's offense needs tinkering, and the defense is going to play really well.
So when you were talking, you helped me remember my second point. Because to me, this is the most simplest point. Work on fundamentals. And I know people are going to say you don't get Andy Reid success without fundamentals, but how many games have we seen over the Mahomes era where the offense was lacking fundamentals? And we saw that play out in, whether it was penalties, receivers who don't know how to properly catch the ball, bad technique, even from offensive linemen. Like, how many times have we seen what seems to be undisciplined players where maybe Andy has been a little too easy on guys, or, a little too lax in letting Pat and Travis, use half a practice to start brainstorming and drawing up plays in the sand. So, like, I think that's the big one, is work on fundamentals. Like, work on fundamentals, right? Like, it's kind of like the whole Tony Dungy thing, when he took over the Colts. Work on the fundamentals. Like, get these plays to where they're as close to perfect as possible. Work on your technique, right? Because it seems like people's techniques are getting sloppy at times. And I know that includes Mahomes, and you point that out when it happens with Mahomes. And so, like, those are my two. Like, I think if you did that, and I know the David Collin thing is like, it's not going to happen. It's kind of a pipe dream, kind of a blast from the past thing. It's just, he's at home. He was here, during the Tyreek days. Tyreek mentions him by name, so you know that he had an impact, right? Andy brought him from Philly, so you know that he was a good coach. Andy made him his assistant head coach, before he left and Dave Tobe got that title. So you know how much Andy thought about him. And here's a guy who's just sitting at home. And he was a wide receiver coach. You have a rookie wide receiver coach who has only played running back in his career. And so I don't know. To me, that one makes sense, but at the same time, you know, if they were going to do it, they would have done it at the beginning of the season. It's just kind of frustrating. It's a move I would like to see, but I think the fundamentals one is the biggest one that they can and should be working on.
Won't get no argument here, brother.
Do you have anything that you would add to that? Anything I've said about Seth's list, and I'm not giving his whole list, but anything that I said from Seth's list or my two things?
No, it was well said.
All right, let me check to make sure we hit all of our talking points. I think we did. We talked about, I think we got into that, bye-week adjustments. We pretty much got into that. I think we've hit basically everything. If anyone's still with us, I think Thunder Dan is probably live right now, so you can go check him out for a different flavor of Chiefs content. There's plenty of Chiefs content creators out there for any flavor of Chiefs fan that you are. And Gooch is doing more and more things each week now. So you have the Talents Top 10, you have the Talents team tiers, and who knows what's coming next week. We're going to add a third show, Gooch, fourth show.
Hey, I'm working on stuff right now, trying to get my mind wrapped around a couple things. I might surprise somebody in the next couple of weeks. You never know.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what everyone's two favorite things about being pregnant are. So it's not cravings. I know it can't be cravings and heartburn.
No. It's only two of them, Keith.
Listen, you weren't on here before we started. It was just Aaron and I. I've had a little under 4 hours of sleep today. So my mind is really obese right now.
That's okay, brother.
And that it is slow. Like there's like 15 things that I could list. So I don't know. But you guys know, hey, don't forget, you got to tell me whatever that comment was once we end this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna forget this. All right, so you guys did a score prediction. I did not. Man, I hate this because I think that I don't know what offense we're going to see. Are we going to see the offense that we saw against the Bears? We've seen it stretches in a lot of different games, like a drive or two in a handful of games. The Chargers game, part of the Dolphins game. Like, are we going to see the offense that's functional and can lead sustained drives? Like, I feel better about the defense, which makes me feel not better, Gooch. Like, I feel better about the defense and think that this is going to be more of a defensive battle, which, you know, could then mean that it's the exact opposite, because I expected a shootout in week one, Chiefs and Lions. I thought it was going to be like a 54-51 game, and it ended up being more of a defensive battle. And I feel like this is going to be a defensive battle. Is it going to be like another shootout? Is it going to be like a redo of the Super Bowl where it's like 38-35 or whatever?
Yeah, it's actually a good way of thinking, but I think it's going to be a lot low. I think it's going to be a lower score than most people think it is. I think the defenses are going to show up to play.
I mean, I think I would tend to lead that way, and I don't know what the over under is for this game. I do think it would be surprising with how good, how improved I think the defense is for us to give up 30 plus points again. It's really more about the offense, and that I'm not sure. Before this season, you always thought, with Mahomes, you can at least book 27 points basically. Like you can just, figure Chiefs are going to score 24, at least 24, 27 points a game. But I just don't know what offense you're going to see. And I think coming off the bye, I want to see good offense, and I'm going to be disappointed if I don't. I'm going to say something like 21-21.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. You think that's too high? It's probably too high.
No, it may not be. Like you said, you don't know what you're going to get out of this game. It could be a defensive fight, and it could be a shootout.
This is why I hate doing score predictions, because I mean it's just especially with the Chiefs this year, because you don't know what you're getting on offense. Feel good about the defense. Anyway, for you guys who are watching, let us know your score prediction for Chiefs and Eagles. Dan Talks Football, who's in the we have listed in the description here, is doing a live stream during the game next Monday night. So again, there's a lot of different flavors for Chiefs content creators. I'll just put it that way, right, Gooch? Flavors. Everybody has their own personality, which is great. I love different personalities, even if there's some that I don't necessarily tend to agree with. Like I still like everyone having their unique personality. And we have a lot of them in Chiefs Kingdom. There's a lot of great content. You don't have to agree with everything every channel says or all the time. And I know Gooch is going to chime in here and say, except for him. But I mean, seriously, there really are chief concerns with Jason Dunn and Marcus Dash. Again, happy birthday, Jason Dunn. Dan Talks Football, Thunder Dan 88 show, Kingdom Queens, right? Is there like a Kingdom Cast? Like there is a lot of great Chiefs related content out there. But I do know that Dan Talks Football is doing doing Chiefs game live streams each game throughout the season. So you can check him out next Monday night for the Chiefs and Eagles. And if you're a sports bettor, check out his channel too. He's got a lot of stuff on sports betting. Yeah. I don't think I have any more thoughts left, Gooch. You got some last thoughts and you want to pay the bills?
No last thoughts from me, but we do appreciate everybody that watches our content, whether religiously or passing. Sorry I wasn't on video today. I've been battling a couple probably a little flu bug or something, and I look a complete mess and been running around.
Gray hairs.
Gray hairs, absolutely. So it was nice to get with the boys again. It was good to see all three of us together. I have fun doing this. I know we both do. Talent's top 10, Talent's tiers coming next week for sure. Be on the look like we'll be out. We'll be back next week. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. Take care of your family. Give them hugs and kisses. Thanksgiving is coming up. So I'm excited for that because my birthday is right after it this year. So there's going to be a lot of good eating. Make sure you tell somebody you love them, and we'll be back. Hit the theme music.
Yeah, before we do that, we always forget. Like the episode. If you're not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe. Share with someone else who's a Chiefs fan. Now, Gooch.
Hit the music.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war, we score and win. We're the Super Bowl champs, the king of the hill.